she never told me that I couldn't, so it was kind of a curiosity that grew into more of a hobby, and then the hobby grew into more of a job.
Right, right. Now, is this your job? Do you do SGRA research as your everyday living, or do you have another job that keeps you busy?
I don't have another job, but this is more of a full-time hobby for me. I have done some things with it that have actually paid the bills, things like writing reports for people and whatnot, and doing research that some people have called us on.
Mm-hmm.
So it has been a little bit of a lucrative business deal.
Well, good.
But it's not exactly a full-time job.
Well, I totally understand where you're going with that. Now, let me ask you, in your investigation, and sticking with the ghost thing, so I know you do a lot of different types of investigations, but sticking with ghosts, is there one investigation that sticks out to you that is hey, if you don't believe in ghosts, you either have to go to this place or hear my story and look at the evidence? Do you have a story like that?
Well, there's been a lot of it. Actually, we have been pretty successful as far as the ghost investigations go with uncovering things that simply can't be explained by any of the scientific evidence that we use. So there's a lot out there that's unexplained, and I've heard a lot of stories from people. A lot of people have stories about ghosts that they're willing to share once they realize that you're not going to call them crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as a single episode goes, there really hasn't been one that's really stuck out. They've all kind of been a little bit unique to us.
Right. Well, let's pick a case or two if you could, and tell me a little bit or walk me and the listeners through what did you guys see or record or hear?
Sure. Well, one case that was very interesting was we had a couple who kept hearing footsteps on their second floor. And they asked us to come in and do an investigation, which we did. And it was actually quite interesting because we did get audio recording of what sounded like footsteps on the second floor. And when we were there about the third time, it was a little bit of a windy day out, and we ended up just going outside during one of the times that we heard the footsteps and realizing that there was a loose shutter on the side of the house.
Interesting.
And the loose shutter just happened to hit the side of the house, exactly sounding like footsteps on the second floor.
So you were able to solve the riddle for the family.
Exactly, and that's a good example of something that wasn't exactly a ghost, but it's what we look for too. So we don't just automatically assume that just because people are hearing footsteps that it is a ghost.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, what about a case that you have yet to explain, or possibly can't be explained?
There's a number of them. We actually did an investigation of an inn, and the inn was supposedly haunted. There's been long stories about it, and we got a number of photographs there that just could not be explained at all. One of them actually seemed to show a figure in a window, and there was nobody else in the room. There was no light reflection or anything like that. So however it ended up being, it couldn't be explained.
Interesting. And what kind of history do you find with places with events that can't be explained? Do you kind of see a common thread throughout everything? Are they generally older places that were built up?
A lot of people think that ghosts would exist in older places like historical houses or whatnot. But the truth is that we get reports in and we get investigations in from newer homes just as much as we do from older homes.
So there's no common thread or anything. It's just
there really isn't. A lot of times the older homes come with legend and lore to them, so that's kind of why most people associate it with that.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing goes with cemeteries. A lot of people think that cemeteries would be haunted, but the truth is that we really find very rarely that cemeteries are haunted.
Interesting. See, I've told this story probably 2 years ago on Black Vault Radio, and I was at the Whaley House in San Diego, California. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
Yeah, I am.
It's a fairly famous place for being haunted, and we had experiences there that I'm telling you, I don't know what to believe with ghosts at all. But we had one of the supposed ghosts that lived in the house, who was known as the trickster. We had this long story given to us by one of the people that takes care of the houses, or that was there as a tour guide, talking about this trickster ghost, Yankee Jim. And he hides your keys and throws things off the shelves. and even in rare cases puts a red ring around your neck because his background story was that he was hung on this property, and he was so tall at the time. This was, I think, in the 1800s. He was so tall at the time that his feet hit the ground, that he was well above the average height of a man. And so this red ring is explained by that Yankee Jim wants to remind people that he, instead of his neck snapping, he strangled to death. And when I went there with my girlfriend and we heard this story, I wouldn't believe the story unless I was there and have photographic evidence of it. But after about 20 minutes of being in the house, or 30 minutes being in the house, not only did we hear and think we saw a lot of strange things, I turned around to look at her. There was nothing wrong with her. I turned around for a split second to look at something in her room because she really wanted to go, turned back around, and she had this bright red ring all the way around her neck that appeared within seconds. It was the most amazing thing. And I'm telling you this story, and it goes on, and I don't want to waste the time because people are here to hear you. But this type of event where there's interaction with a person, if you want to call it that, or some kind of effect that a spirit is putting onto somebody else. Do you have cases like that? How rare is that?
It's really not that rare. We do get cases quite often where something interacts with someone in a location. And, a lot of times this is what gets people calling us into their houses because they have things interacting with them. They see things, hear things, or feel things. And it's all reports that we get in, and that's how people get in touch with us.
What kind of effects do you see? Does the SGRA go out and investigate? What kind of effects on a person do you see?
Well, a lot of times on people, it's really just amazement because a lot of people call us in after, a lot of times people call us in after somebody in the house has reported something and, they didn't quite believe it until they saw it for themselves. Mm-hmm. So the effect on people is really quite interesting.
Now let's talk about video evidence or photographic evidence. You said you'd bring a lot of cameras to your investigation.
Yep.
What kind, if any, stuff do you catch on your photographic equipment?
Well, we get a lot. We get a lot of what's called mists, and that's basically a white blurb that comes out in a photograph for no apparent reason. Mm-hmm. It's almost like seeing your breath, but we get them inside houses. We get them outside. And it's almost like a spiritual mist. That's the most common thing. Mm-hmm. We also get a lot of orbs, which is a big debate over whether or not orbs are actually spirits or actually dust. Mm-hmm. And occasionally, as I said, we've gotten actual photographs of spirits, or what we believe are spirits, as far as shapes go that look like people.
And so you do see facial definitions, because that actually was my next question.
Yeah, you can actually sometimes see very, very defined facial features.
Interesting. It's kind of scary in a way. I mean, are you scared to go out there sometimes to these places?
Well, not so much scared, just because I'm more intrigued by it. Mm-hmm. But I can understand where people would get scared from it, especially those who are living with it every day.
I think I would just be, after seeing what happened to my girlfriend from Yankee Jim down there in San Diego, I just would kind of be, I don't know, afraid. You're listening to the Black Vault Radio with Jon Nowinski, joining me from the Smoking Gun Research Agency. Visit him online while cool music is coming your way on the Black Vault Radio Network, SGRA-media.org. SGRA-media.org. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Black Vault Radio. I'm your host, John Greenwald Jr. Joining me, Jon Nowinski from the Smoking Gun Research Agency. Hours flying by as we're talking about an aspect of the paranormal rarely talked about here on the Black Vault Radio, and I don't really know why. It just kind of happens because of the way the interviews unfold here, and I'm so excited to be talking about the ghostly phenomena of spirits and ghosts, and I'm not sure